You ready?
The City of Philadelphia Mayor, Jim Kenney, recently apologizes for the city's behavior 20 years after a federal court judge dismissed a lawsuit filed by more than 300 inmates involved in a prisons preying on prisoners experiment. The experiment started in the mid-1900s, where medical racism and decades of trauma was inflicted upon illiterate black inmates at the Holmesburg Prison of Philadelphia, which at the time was considered a medical plantation, nicknamed the Terror Dome. A doctor by the name of Albert Kligman viewed the predominantly black prison population as a low risk and a plentiful pool of test subjects for more than 200 chemical experiments. These experiments ran by the University of Pennsylvania, where the professor worked in conjunction with Johnson & Johnson, Ivy Research, and Dow Chemicals, who supplied the testing agents. Watch this.
Today, the city of Philadelphia issuing a formal apology for historic wrongdoing. Horrible medical experiments were conducted on inmates at Holmesburg Prison from the 1950s through the 1970s. The majority of those inmates were black men who were illiterate. Action News reporter Bob Brooks now with the details.
It's been nearly 30 years since Philadelphia's Holmesburg prison closed in 1995. And finally today, the city of Philadelphia issued a public apology to the inmates who were used as guinea pigs for extreme medical experiments conducted by the University of Pennsylvania. The vast majority of them were black men. Part of the apology stated, from the 1950s to the 1970s, inmates were intentionally exposed to pharmaceuticals, viruses, fungus, asbestos, and even dioxin, a component of Agent Orange.
Although they were prisoners at the time, but still human beings, this should have fell under some type of despicable crimes law. Not only did these chemicals cause long-term effects psychologically and physically, these chemicals gave people cancer, and they were used as chemical warfare in the Vietnam War to make Agent Orange, what was known as a toxic bomb in the 1960s. Some prisoners were released unable to explain what happened to them because there was a lot of illiteracy in those days. Watch this.
It was like the Macy's of human experimentation.
Tonight, we spoke with Alan Hornblum. Not many people know better what actually went on there than him. After completing his master's degree at Villanova, he began teaching a literacy program at the prison in the 70s, and then was compelled to author a book and produce a documentary, both titled Acres of Skin, detailing the atrocities at Holmesburg.
Anything anybody wanted to have tested on humans, even things that were toxic and carcinogenic and dangerous, could be done there.
In one case, he says,
5-6 dozen prisoners had dioxin applied to their backs and their faces, never being told what it was or how it could damage them.
He even has a prison logbook where it details which inmates were used for military testing.
They forgot their names. They didn't know where they were.
Tonight, Hornblum says the apology was long overdue, especially for building trust within the black community.
Between what they've heard about Tuskegee, what they've heard relatives go through in the Philadelphia prison system, there's no great love, affection, or trust with doctors or the medical community.
Okay, now Hornblum says this coming Saturday at noon, he's going to hold a vigil outside of the prison for the victims and their families. He says there he'd like to discuss.
So after hearing this story, if you already didn't know about it, that doctor has been long gone. But he does have a building in his name on the University of Penn's campus, honoring him for his work. Also, there was some settlement payouts for some of the people years ago, but not to all of them for some reason or another. How does this story make you feel? You decide.